Hey guys, welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at a Japanese racing game by the name of Option Tuning Car Battle. This is actually the first of a series of 3 games that were actually released on the PlayStation in Japan. This particular game, the first in the series, was actually released in 1998, and the game kind of focuses around the likes of street racing kind of elements of the Japanese racing culture back in the mid to late 90s, because you get access to a lot of branded cars, like big popular well sought after cars that are highly regarded to be some of the best cars ever to be created in the Japanese region. You have everything from the likes of Nissan Silvia, S14 Silvia, all the way to the likes of cars from Honda, Mazda, Subaru and the like, all with their own unique traits and elements. So there's definitely something here pretty much for everybody. The game also, even though it was released in 1998, there was a lot of other big name games, as we all know, Gran Turismo being the major entry in the racing game market back in 1998 also, which that game went on to be pretty much the best selling and highest grossing racing game of all time. So a lot of these games that came out on the system had really a lot to live up to, but at the same time it was also very hard to compete, because Gran Turismo was also on a totally different level. But the likes of with this game here, because it was only released in the Japanese region, most of us didn't even know that these type of games ever existed. You'd kind of see you'd see screenshots of these games sometimes in the likes of game magazines, where they may actually cover kind of like certain screenshots, or they might tell an odd like article or story based off a game that they may have gotten wind of at that time from the likes of these other regions, and they might put up an article like say in the magazine, and that would usually be the only way you would actually ever see these games in action. Now, even going back to even my first experience of this here, because at the time, like when Gran Turismo came out, there was also likes of Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit. There was actually quite a few really high-end racing games that came out on the PlayStation at that time, but you were still always looking for really good alternatives to see what was actually out there. And honestly, even myself personally, I didn't even know that a lot of these games actually even existed. My first experience with the Option Tuning Car Battle series was actually with the second game. I will actually be doing another video on that quite soon, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. And I actually managed to get my hands on a copy of it that I was able to actually play, and it was very reflective of Gran Turismo. Graphics as well are even a drastic improvement even over this game here. I have actually included all of these games in a previous video I did, the graphically impressive PS1 racing games. I'll make sure to drop a link down in the description so that you can go and check it out, as some of these racing games here, especially these 3 games which I will be covering across different videos, they are among some of the better looking racing games that were ever released on the PlayStation. And there was quite a number of racing games, as we all know, that were released on the system, but there was very few that were actually really graphically that good. This here was kind of up there. Now, it wouldn't be as good as some of the other ones as I mentioned, but it actually, for its time period and for the first game in a new series, it definitely was quite decent. The one thing to notice with these games, especially when you're racing on tracks like these here, as you can see, yeah, you will actually crash a lot. You always crash into the traffic. Even when you try to avoid them, you still crash into them. So, but that's just the way these games kind of operate. You just need to have your wits about you, and you need to be really skilled. Plus it also teaches you as well not to drive fast on open roads, so don't do it. But actually, having played the second game in the series, it is interesting to go and play the other games as well, even to go back and play the original game and to clearly see the differences between all of them. Like, the graphics in this game actually are really good, although not as good as say the second game, but it definitely feels very different. It has a similar style in terms of the tracks and the game modes that are on offer. There's definitely more to be offered in the likes of the next games in the series, but this here definitely is a good starting point. But you do get access to, like I said, to all the big brand cars. Like here you're driving the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4, which for me is one of my all-time favourite cars. and the fact is that you actually get to play and drive them in the game as well, and get to drive them in these type of environments is really cool. But it is reflective of the likes of the Japanese racing culture back at that time, because street racing was heavily a thing, where they used to actually race on the likes of the open kind of like motorways or highways in Japan at that time. So this kind of just is a real reflection of that culture back then. So it's interesting to get to play it actually in a video game format, so you kind of got a feel for how that type of element actually would have been presentable back then. But at least with the added benefit that you could actually play within the safety of your own home, that you weren't trying to do this for real, so that at least you were safe, that you could just enjoy the game without the fear of actually getting into trouble or getting hurt or vice versa. So yeah, even though like games like this here, they do kind of follow like a certain kind of trend or an element, it does stress also as well not to go out and do this for real, because it can be very dangerous. Another thing kind of to take away from the likes of these type of games as well is to really emphasise the use of the likes of the replay sections, like as you can see here. And I remember actually going back to playing Gran Turismo 1, where you actually seen like replays being done with the camera angles, and it just looked so real, like as if you were watching a real race on TV. And you could see that a lot of these games were actually starting to follow the same kind of trend, so that was definitely a really neat feature, and you could definitely see the improvements being made over time. Because you could definitely get some really good shots or some really cool angles that you could use, like say in this case you can use them in the videos and stuff, so it makes everything look really cool. So it's definitely an added bonus to actually have something like this in these games. But it showed you what was even possible even back in the early days like of 3D gaming, and even the likes of these consoles like with the PlayStation and so forth. So it's definitely was something quite cool. And the fact that you could save the replay onto your memory card as well, so you could show off to your mates how cool you were, or at least made yourself look cool. So yeah, it was definitely something to have a bit of fun with for sure. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are of this game. Did you even know it existed? And if so, did you even get the chance to play it? And what are your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it? Or do you even like these type of games? And especially with the likes of all the cool cars and so forth that are in them. Be sure to share them down in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be updated whenever I release future videos, as I am going to be exploring a lot more of these classic Japanese style racing games that were released in that region, and sharing my thoughts and experiences with everyone. So as always, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.